regardless of what you think about Palestinian and Israeli, I just have one thing to say. Um, I have been accused that I have a bias against Israeli or Jewish people. That is completely not true. I absolutely detest Hamas. I think that they should be held responsible for the crime that they committed against innocent Israeli. Same with the Israeli military. They are both guilty of war crime, as stated by the United Nations report, and they should both be held responsible. One of the things that I want to talk about, though, is that the idea that anytime someone said that Israel criticized Israel as an apartheid state, there is this suppression. There is this accusation that I'm anti-Semitic if I accuse Israeli for what they're doing to the Palestinians. I'm accused of being a racist. And one of the interesting thing is that it's very, very hypocritical to ask someone to recognize your right to exist with all the security measure, with all the condition that you have set forward, when you yourself do not recognize, when you yourself undermine the existence of the very group of people you ask for respect from. So this is what I think. Even though Palestinian does not have a state yet, it is just as important to recognize the right of Palestinians to their statehood as it is to recognize the right of Israel to exist. And if Israel really want another country like the Palestinian people to respect their right, Israel would not be doing what they're doing right now, which is building new settlement, kicking Palestinians out of their home in Jerusalem, and using roadblock and all that kind of stuff to restrict the movement of the Palestinian people. It is completely within human right to suggest that all human beings are entitled to human rights, and that it is not anti-Semitic. It is the human right violation when one believes that just because of the millennium of oppression against Jewish people, entitle Jewish people to a homeland or a right to self-defense that supersede anyone's else. That is not respecting the right of Israel to exist. That would be asking for someone to respect the supremacy of Israel to exist at the expense of Palestinian people. And that is something I would not support. I do not support the supremacy of Israel to exist, and I do not support racism. And one Jewish writer wrote that to be a member of Jewish faith is to believe that oneself always been a tribe that have been over and over again cast out, mistreated, and slaughtered, which is exactly how we can describe Palestinians when compared to how they're treated by other Arabs in the state and also by Israelis themselves. And if one criticizes the supremacy of Israel, one is not anti-Jewish people. One is merely similar to criticizing Nazi Germany without being racism against German. It's like accusing the apartheid South Africa's racist policy to work black, but not as the evidence of racism against white people. Or saying that just because I oppose Jim Crow's law that institutionalized discrimination against black in the U.S. Southern state, that does not mean I'm racist against Americans or racist against white people. And so the simple rhetoric that just because you respect the right of Israel to exist and to self-defense, then you support the status quo no longer work with us. There is this increasing awareness that this is not working. And Palestinians and the supporter, if they talk about the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, losing their property, which they had legal entitled to, losing their personal belongings, their bank account, having 531 villages destroyed, losing their country and their right to citizenship and not being allowed to return home, or house demolition, the more than 600 Israeli military checkpoints in the West Bank, the 40 years of military occupation of Gaza and the West Bank, the program of targeted assassination, torture, and the impairment of 101,000 Palestinians that held without charge. These are not criticism against Jewish people. It's a criticism of um, that is completely based on the idea of being against racism. And just as Jewish people have the right, and just as anyone have the right to criticize the Hamas and their cowardly and horrifying suicide bombing and their rocket attack, um, that is just as unacceptable as what the Israel is doing right now, which is what they're continuing to do, which is to build new settlement and undermining the existence of the right of Palestinians to exist with dignity.